It's kind of like one last hurrah before the Hello lovelies, welcome back, welcome if you're new, nice to have you all here. Today we're back in the kitchen with a recipe. Feels like it's been a while, but it's the opportune time because it's September, it's autumn, and Mabon is right around the corner. If you aren't really into the witchy spiritual aspect of the video, I will leave a timestamp in the description box below so you can just skip ahead to the recipe. This is the time to skip if you so desire. Right, you're still here, so I'm assuming that you are interested in the more spiritual, more witchcrafty aspect of today's video. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown of the subject. Mabon is the second harvest and marks the autumn equinox, falls between the 21st and 24th of September in the Wiccan witchcraft wheel of the year. Mind you, Wicca and witchcraft are not interchangeable, they're not the same thing, just as a side note. This is a time of plenty, a time of joy, of preparation for the darker months to come, of giving thanks and spending time with family. It's kind of one last hurrah before the year turns to its darker side and like fades unstoppably towards winter. To celebrate Mabon and the harvest, obviously activities like picking fruit or baking or cleaning and cleansing your home, spending time with family, or showing gratitude by giving back to nature or to the community are great activities. Also, if you're a broom closet witch, you can just kind of like let that flow into your day without much of an eyebrow being raised, unless of course you've never baked before in your life and all of a sudden you want to start. That might be a little bit suspicious. Of course, if you're an out and out witch and have absolutely no inhibitions about demonstrating your witchiness, decorating your altar or performing like a full all-out Mabon ritual to celebrate is obviously completely on the cards. If you have an altar, possible decorations can include, but are not limited to, autumn leaves, pumpkins, apples, wheat sheaves, cornucopias, chestnuts, hazelnuts, any walnuts, nuts. If you want to include crystals into your decoration or into the practice, maybe for meditating with crystals like amber, citrine, bloodstone, yellow agate, and of course always clear quartz are great options. Deities you could include into your Mabon venerations or rituals are Demeter, Freya, Bacchus Dionysus, Brigid, Ceres. Those are the ones I click most with, but there obviously are a bunch of others you could include. Pachamama, for example, would probably be also fitting if that is in your cultural circle. So Mabon can kind of like really be seen as like the Wiccans or witches' Thanksgiving, and one of the ways to celebrate a Thanksgiving obviously is a feast, which naturally, being a kitchen cottage witch, leads me back to today's video, gluten-free apple cake. I used to have like a really great recipe for apple cake from like way back when, but unfortunately I can't find it anywhere, and also it's not gluten-free, and because my partner has celiac disease, anything that happens in this house has to be gluten-free. So I went on Pinterest and had a bit of a look around and found an original recipe that sounded kind of like the one I used to have, and then also went and had a look for gluten-free recipes. Now interestingly, most of the gluten-free recipes, or pretty much all that I came across, sort of mix their own flour together, which sadly I can't do because plague times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the recipes, Frankenstein them together a little bit, and adapt them with what I have learned so far in gluten-free baking, and I kind of like hope that there's going to be a little bit of saving grace for this one. So after all that preamble, let me show you the ingredients that we are going to be using. Looks like a lot, doesn't it? And it still needs to be prepped and measured and weighed and stuff. But let me do that for you real quick. There we are. All of the ingredients nicely prepped. I've got all the things here that I need. Why don't you come a little bit closer and I'll show you what everything is. Okay, so we have 2/3 of a cup of oat flour, 1/3 of a cup of ground almonds, a teaspoon and a half baking powder, a half a teaspoon xanthan gum, and a half a teaspoon salt. Then a half a cup each sugar and gluten-free flour, and a half cup of butter. I actually have butter with a bit of coconut oil because I forgot to buy butter. A quarter cup of milk, I'm using oat milk. 2 eggs at room temperature, 1 small apple peeled, cored and grated, and 4 larger apples peeled, cored and quartered. And last but not least, extracts. I will be using a teaspoon and a half of vanilla and a teaspoon and a half of lemon, and probably 1 teaspoon of almond. You could use the zest of 1 fresh lemon if you wanted to. And then we have some fun stuff as add-ons. And for decoration, some marzipan, flaked almonds, and apricot jam for a glaze. I have also prepared a 9-inch spring form with some parchment paper and have my oven preheating at 180 degrees C. So let's go. Start by adding the butter to a large bowl and first stirring, then whisking it until it turns a bit lighter in color. Add the extracts and the sugar. I like to add mine in 2 batches, but that's personal preference. And mix to combine and continue to whisk vigorously until it turns very light in color. Now it's time to add the eggs. Here the 1 at a time is mandatory. Mix thoroughly to combine after each one, and then continue to beat the mix until it's very light in color and very fluffy. Now it's time for the flour, also in 2 batches. Sift the flour directly into the bowl along with the rising agents, which ideally you would have mixed into the flour beforehand, and mix everything together thoroughly. We're getting to a slightly goopy consistency here, which is fine, which is exactly what we want. Also, this is a good time to add any extracts you forgot earlier, as well as the grated apple. Mix to thoroughly combine and add the oats and almonds. This is a very good moment to switch from a whisk to a wooden spoon. And now add the milk, a little at a time, mixing thoroughly between adds to check for consistency. We're coming to a sort of goopy, slightly sticky, stringy stage, which is perfect, so we can go ahead and transfer over to the spring form. Just pour it all in, making sure you get every last morsel of batter. If necessary, enlist the help from your bruised and battered, well over 10-year-old rubber spatula you're too attached to actually throw away. And then gently coax and smoosh the batter around in the form so it fills in all the corners and has an even-ish thickness all over. It doesn't have to be neat, just even. Now the fun part. Take the apples and score them top to bottom for even cooking, and I'm smooshing some marzipan in the cavity where the core was. Again, up close, score top to bottom, not too shallow but not too deep, kind of like you would do for a Hasselback potato. And here we are. This baby is headed into the oven for 40 to 50 minutes or until a toothpick inserted comes out clean. Right, that was quick. We're nice and golden brown, and now we're getting glazed with apricot jam, 2 tablespoons melted in a pot with 1 tablespoon of water. You could strain this mix, but I like it a bit rustic. The jam doesn't come through strongly in taste, but it does work nicely to stick down the flaked almonds. Pop the cake out of the spring form and let it cool completely. And now it's time to finally cut the cake. I'm serving it with a mix of sour cream, creme fraiche, and a German special vanilla sugar. Really happy you could join me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more of my experimental cooking, you can of course also hit the subscribe button. I upload on the 1st and 16th of the month, and it would be great to have you along for the ride. If you make this, of course, you can tag me on social media. But for now, wherever you are, have a lovely day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!